President Biden thinking about pulling his support for the Inflation Reduction Act?
No.
Because he promised it wasn't going to raise taxes on anybody making less than $400,000 a year, but the Joint Committee on Taxation says that is not true.
Well, that isn't correct.
So the Joint Committee on Taxation, which you guys heralded as an effective body when you were selling the infrastructure package, is not to be trusted here.
I said it is not correct because I will give you why it's not correct, because it is incomplete.
That was White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre doubling down on the support for the Democrats' massive spending plan, even after the nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation says it would raise taxes on millions of Americans, especially the middle class. Joining me right now is Americans for Tax Reform President Grover Norquist to set the record straight. Grover, you've highlighted 5 examples of tax increases in this bill. Let's talk about that, because we are right now in a period of strain with higher interest rates, with a recession underway, as well as inflation at 40-year highs. If this bill becomes law, who will get taxed?
Everyone. For starters, they say this is an anti-inflation bill. They raise taxes on crude oil, which is gasoline, raise taxes on coal for energy, and for the production of natural gas. So to start with, they go in and increase the cost of energy at a time when the Biden administration and the Democrat policies have already been pushing the higher cost of energy onto the American people, and that hits everybody. Then they go around and they say, well, we're going to have this 15% tax on companies that they think don't pay enough. Who is that? These are companies that take all of their earnings and reinvest it in the company, so they don't have any income because they're not earning anything. They're plowing it all back into growth and wages and building factories and so on. And they want to take a 15% cut of investment of companies that are growing, and that's a huge damage to the economy and the economic growth and to job creation. Manchin refers to that as a loophole. Expensing is something that Democrats used to support up until they really went hard left more recently. So this is a huge spending bill, a huge tax increase bill. It is very damaging to economic growth, job creation, and it hits everyone. Biden promised he wouldn't hit taxes on anyone who made less than $400,000. That's a lie. Manchin said he would never raise taxes during a recession or until the government became efficient. Manchin's not telling the truth about what he was going to do and how he's voting. Wow. And when he's on television, the 5 channels, all he wanted to talk about was permitting reform, which isn't in the bill.
Yeah, well, look, we do have the Penn-Wharton budget model, and this is the model that Manchin says he relies on. And they say they're estimating that the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce non-interest cumulative deficits by $248 billion over the budget window with no impact on GDP at all. In 2031, the impact on inflation is statistically indistinguishable from zero, writes the budget model. But I want to get into the IRS because we do have money now earmarked for the IRS so that Biden could hire that 87,000 new IRS agents. Tell me about that portion of this. This is something that Biden's wanted to do from day one in office. You say this is going to supersize the IRS.
They want to take $80 billion from taxpayers, $80 billion, and hire 87,000 more bureaucrats in the IRS. They're going after small businesses. The IRS itself says they're going to dramatically increase how they go after independent contractors and small businesses, not General Motors, smaller businesses. That's where they think they're going to make their money. They're going to give the IRS more money for offices. Odd. 53%, the IRS admits 53% of their staff, they don't come in at all. The other 47%, sometimes, unclear how often people come in. There are a lot of empty offices at the IRS. They're going to get more cars for the IRS. When reports of internal looking at the IRS said they're not using the cars correctly. It's not clear people aren't misusing them for their personal use, and they don't need any more. The government's going to get them more cars as well. They're putting these new people into enforcement, not answering the phones. They admit that maybe 10% of the phone calls that go in, they even pick up. They're not doing a very good job of answering people's questions when they're trying to do their taxes. They're not going to put resources into that to speak of. They're massively increasing their ability to audit you. The number of people they want to hire is larger than all of the servicemen and women who serve on aircraft carriers around the world. It's a large number.
Wow, that is incredible. And Grover, they also want to make sure they know if you spend or take $600 or more out, then they lifted that number. They want to make sure they know how much money you're taking in and out in terms of transactions of your accounts, right?
They want an end of privacy for Americans. That the tax collectors are going to want to demand to know anything and everything about you. And while they're demanding that you keep records on everything, the inspectors general found that they had destroyed, the IRS, 30 million tax statements. 30 million. If you piled them on top of each other, that's 2 miles high. They've destroyed them. It's unclear how they destroyed them. They're not telling anybody. Now, they destroyed these kind of documents, but you're in trouble if you don't keep every piece of paper back forever.
Grover, great analysis. Good to see you this morning, sir. Thank you. Grover Norquist joining us
Good to
this
see you.
morning.